Hi, and welcome to the 21st Century Writer Podcast, where we talk about writing, publishing, and most of all, the mindset you need to do all this, because being an author in the 21st century is a bit of a challenge. I'm Hannah Steenbach, German author and coach, and my co-host is
Diane Patterson. I'm a novelist and blogger.
And today we're actually going to dig deeper into the topic of the mindset.
Mindsets. Every week in the introduction, we mention that we are going to be talking about the mindset you need to be a writer. And what do we mean by that? What are we talking about here? Lots and lots of podcasts about self-publishing talk about strategy, talk about the external things you need to do to get somewhere in publishing. And a lot of these podcasts, I'm not going to say all of them, but a lot of them are incredibly valuable. I myself love the Rocking Self-Publishing podcast. I love Joanna Penn's podcast. You can get a lot of great things, a lot of great tips, a lot of inspiration out of these podcasts.
Absolutely.
My problem with a lot of these podcasts is these people come on and say, well, after I published my 45th book, and then I decided to get into a new genre. So I wrote 15 books and immediately published them all on the same day. And I'm like, wait, did you start there? You know, how did you get to this point where you could do this? I don't want a huge investigation into someone's lack of self-confidence. But on the other hand, I'd like to know how they got themselves to the point where this was what they do.
Yes. Because I think, it's one thing to sit down and create stories and create worlds and create characters, which we've been talking about, creating plots. But on the other hand, it takes something else to go out and do this thing that is a writing business. And it means, and it truly certainly is a business these days. If you are an independent author and you publish your books on your own, using whatever, Amazon, Kobo, whatever's out there, Smashwords, and you need to treat this as a business, and that is a hugely different mindset from sitting down and creating stories.
I think there are levels. You have to start at the bottom of, okay, I want to write.
True.
And there are a lot of people, and now part of the problem with this is we have a real problem, at least in the US, with people calling themselves artists. That's a really tough step to take. On the other hand, I can't remember who originally said this, but one of the greatest quotes I heard somewhere was, everyone thinks they're a writer because everyone knows the alphabet. So everyone goes, oh, I know, I'll write it. Or even better yet, they hear that you're a writer and they go, oh, I have this great story. You write it and we'll split it. There is more to writing than just knowing the alphabet or that story that you wrote in 6th grade. So there's that level. There's the introductory level of just being a writer. Then you're like, I'd like to publish my stuff. What does it take? Because many novelists that I know are writers, I guess they don't have to be novelists, say that every single time they go to push the publish button, they have the same feeling in their stomach. Doesn't matter how many times they've done it before. It doesn't matter how much money they're making every month. They're like, do I do this? So there's that level. And then there's the level of, okay, now I have the basic business. Where do I go from here? What's the next step? So there's many different mindsets that you need to adopt.
And I think it's a different mindset to go out and tell people about your story. Because, I won't say that every writer is an introvert, but it sure helps writing, because it means you can shut yourself into your office or sit in the treehouse with your laptop and not miss company and just keep writing,
Yes.
but to actually go out and do something like the podcast, or have presentations and readings, um, and actually tell people, hey, look, I wrote this book.
So
That's hard.
I just realized, should we get into this now, or should we do our check-in with what happened this week?
We should do a little check-in.
All right. You want to go first, or should I?
Oh, I can go first. I can go first. This is part of the writing life. I had a release this week, and we had a little promotion blitz on Facebook and Twitter. And I love my formatting people because they come up with little pictures that are ads, and they post them, and I grab them and post them everywhere, and I can reuse them, and it's really nice. And this time it was rather stressful because they worked extensively on the cover. Vern told me what he did to create. There's a dragon on it and the writer, and he worked really hard to get all the detail right, and which means we finalized the cover on Sunday, and I had the release on Wednesday, and I got the final files on Tuesday to upload, which is okay. I do intense editing. When we did find a mistake, he corrected it and sent me the corrected files so I could upload a mistake-free copy.
Yes.
And he's always taking me through the upload process, which is a huge help because, like Diane said, it's always hard to press that publish button, and I go through it again and again. There was this one book where I got the subtitle wrong on Create Space, and I couldn't change it afterwards. Oh. And Amazon wouldn't merge the two editions. So this time, I double check, triple check, quadruple check, whatever. So I had this release, and on Wednesday we had this video list, and I looked at the sales numbers yesterday. I wasn't happy, let me say it that way. I just wasn't happy. So this is also part of what you have to deal with as author. You may have expectations that just don't happen that way. And especially those people who say, yeah, and I published my first book and it took off and I sold thousands of copies without even telling anyone. I'm fairly sure that doesn't happen anymore.
It does, but there is so much more involved than they're saying or that they're aware of.
Yes. So anyway, yeah, sorry. That was mostly my week. I had good news about another project, which has been ongoing for years and years and years. I think at least 7, possibly 10. It's a German anthology project, and it's been with this particular small press publisher for 2 years, and he finally got around to formatting it. And so I have the galleys now, and I want to approve them by Monday. Monday is a public holiday, so I want to send them back on Monday. And then that baby can go to print, which will be awesome.
Wow, 7 years. That's great.
Yeah, I'm the editor. I wrote it's sort of it has a frame story where the actual author stories are embedded into. I wrote that frame story. I organized the whole thing. I had an author die on me, literally.
Wait, literally die on you? That means
well,
what's going on over there?
Lying on me, but
I've heard of editors getting angry at writers.
She died during the whole process, which is, I mean, I can laugh about it now, but it was really, really sad. So we had the story by her in limbo, and the mother actually agreed to actually release the story for publication. We were going to dedicate the anthology to her. But I mean, imagine that as an editor. You have the author dies. Do you use the story? Who do you contact? Yeah. Who can sign the contract? who gets the royalties? And another one withdrew her story, which wasn't that bad, but she said, no, it's no longer me. I'm not writing that way anymore. I don't want the story to be in there. So I had to find a find a new story to fill that spot. So I mean, being an anthology editor is not a whole lot of fun. I had a publisher, and she got very ill, and she gave up her business. So after 2 years, I had to find a publisher. And then I found a publisher, and one of the authors objected to the terms, so I had to cancel that agreement. And then it took me a while to start hunting for a publisher again. And then I found this one, and he was like, yes, I want to do the story. That's awesome. I love working with you guys. This came out of an author group. Yeah, you get the stories. And it's been 2 years ago. So now he's finally getting them done.
And now being the one in charge of the production, you get the mindset of the publisher, being the one totally different look at things than being the writer. Sorry, just trying to keep on topic here.
This is the joys and fun of a writing life. You start projects, and they kind of wither on you, or wax and wane on you.
Well, I had a great week. I've been
awesome.
working on this novella. Well, it was funny because like I said last week, with novellas, I can keep the whole thing in my mind. I know where I'm going. I have all of the different sequences in my head. I feel very comfortable writing through them.
Mm-hmm.
So I started this novella like 2 weeks ago, maybe 3 weeks ago. I guess it's the 22nd now, a little under 3 weeks ago.
Wow.
I finished it, and it's 27,000 words.
Cool.
And of course, we want to reach Libby Hawker's level of, writing one of those every week. But I felt pretty good about this. And I'm like, oh, this is great. I'm loving how this whole series is going. And then I'm looking at the first page of the novella, and I realize there's a whole plot thread I dropped. Like, not so bright after all, are you? Writing is for people necessarily get it perfect the first time. But no, I've been having a great time with this project. And something that I was doing was every day a friend of mine said, okay, let's work on your actual production here so you can see how much you're doing. Every day I want you to email me with how many words you wrote and a little bit about the writing. So I said,
wow.
Okay, yes. And it's something that I've tried to do for myself before, but somehow getting another person involved changes like whether I actually do it or not.
That's accountability, yes.
Yes, accountability. So I started sending off these emails every day. And I noticed writing a few things down about how I felt during various portions of the writing. I'm like, wait a second, I remember feeling this before. Like every day I was writing 3,000 or 4,000 words. I've discovered that I write about 4 days a week for various reasons. 4 days a week. 4,000 words, that's pretty good. When I got to the final sequence of the novel, the whole conclusion, everything was coming together. I'm like, hey, what's on Netflix? Despite the fact that I knew where I was going, and I'm like, I think I've had that feeling before. What is it about conclusions? So, but since I haven't written it down before, I'm not sure of it. So I'm like, I am really going to work very hard at keeping this journal of how a project went, how I felt at different points. Was there, when I got to the end, is there this change? Yeah. So that would be my tip. Start keeping a journal. And if you have to get your accountability buddy in on it, do it.
Yes.
Maybe you and another writer can exchange emails about where you are in a project and how you're feeling.
I love that idea. Yeah. That's a great thing. We might actually use that as a topic.
Yes. future topic. Accountability buddies.
Because it's also mindset. I mean, seriously, it's so much easier to get work done if you promise someone else that you do it. Definitely a mindset thing.
Sometimes. I've been known to see, in the immortal words of Douglas Adams, I love deadlines. I love the sound that they make as they fly by.
Yes.
Some people they work really well for, and some people they just create stress for.
Yeah.
And
agreed. Again, we all have to figure out what works for us and which mindset we can achieve by which means. Because I think it is quite possible to switch between different mindsets to actually have a transition, and possibly a little ritual for transition, or ritual to sit down and start something.
Definitely. That has been the biggest change over the past couple of months. As I said in an earlier episode, I mean, I've been working on this, and it doesn't need to be 9 o'clock anymore. Yay!
Awesome.
But I say, okay, now is the time. I don't know if you've ever heard of this, but there was when Mike Myers was on Saturday Night Live, he had a skit called Sprockets, in which he was a German artist named Dieter. He said, now is time for sprockets. Well, now is time for writing. I start my little timer. We can go into that in another episode too. I have a timing app that I use to keep track of exactly how long I'm writing. I stop it when I go to get tea. I stop it when the phone rings. So I know exactly how long I've actually been writing that day. I turn off messages and I turn on the music, and I'm like, now I write. That one change has made the biggest difference this year. Just saying, yeah, this is my time. I have to use it.
That's good. So do you want to focus on a certain mindset today, or do you want to go deeper into transitions and actually creating mindsets?
Well, I think, do you want to talk about the various mindsets that we can have, or how to set them, or?
Actually, I've been thinking, we don't even have a real definition for mindset.
Yes. Well, I wrote one down. See if you agree with this.
Cool.
The set of beliefs that define how we see ourselves and how we approach the outside world.
Perfect. I love it.
Yeah.
And of course, I think that set of beliefs shifts if we move to a different task. Like if we move from writing, we have certain beliefs about ourselves as a writer, and how we're supposed to write, and how we're supposed to tell the story, and all this whole thing that most of us, and I think most of our viewers and listeners actually know because they are writers. But the way we see ourselves changes when we shift into a let's say a business mindset or a promoting mindset. And we often, and this is where I really need a prop. This is where I come in as coach, because there's so much to say about beliefs. First of all, I think most of our major beliefs are created when we're still fairly young, especially beliefs about ourselves and how the world works.
Yes.
We sort of soak that up from our family and parents, and sometimes from peers in school, but usually we do that at a young age. So we create and inhale and whatever, install this set of beliefs. I think, what's his name? I'm so bad with names. Anyway, there's this person who wrote Biology of Belief, and he says it's basically like, he used to say it was a tape recorder, now he says it's like a computer that you program. The subconscious is like a computer, and the computer doesn't change its programs by being yelled at. You need to actually go in and change the program. And we can do that with EFT. We can do that with affirmations. We can do that with hypnosis. There are tons of different methods, but just yelling at it won't
Right.
change a thing. So,
Yes. What was? Well, there's a great book actually that talks about mindset, named Mindset, by Carol Dweck, in which she
I
talks
love
about
that one.
the two basic mindsets: the fixed mindset and the
Growth mindset.
growth mindset.
Growth.
Thank you. And the fixed mindset says, "This is the way it is. This is all I have. I have to make do with the skills or talents that I have, and every single thing I do is a reflection on me and the talents that I have." Whereas
And if I fail, I have no talent.
right. Whereas the growth mindset says, well, that was interesting information. I wonder what we can do to change in the future.
Exactly. And the funny thing is, you can actually, I love that book. Carol Dweck is just awesome.
Yeah.
And the interesting thing is that you can shift yourself or others between those mindsets. For example, by the way you phrase praise, and by the way you think about your achievements.
I did that well versus I am a great designer or whatever.
Yes.
I did a good design versus I am a good designer. Huge difference.
Huge difference. And I know affirmations, there's a whole set of affirmations, and they always go along the I am line, which is okay. You can say, I am a great designer, and I did great work with this project. And you would still be in the growth mindset.
Right.
And that's just one example. I mean, that's sort of like a fundamental way of seeing yourself, but it's just one example of a belief.
Yeah.
And
you
I mean,
really have to examine those beliefs.
Yes.
For both ways. I mean, there's the general one that people talk about, which is, oh, this is too hard. Oh, I don't know what I'm doing, which may be true, but you can change how much you know about it.
Yes.
And then there's the flip side of that, which is, oh, I'm smarter than everybody else. Why hasn't the world acknowledged that? And getting upset about that. And I see both of these a lot.
Yeah. And there's so much more. There's a mindset about how hard you have to work to have success. There's some beliefs about, I mean, I don't want to go into that, but there's some belief about which class you have to belong to in order to be successful, which skin of color you have to wear, which kind of outfit you wear in order to be successful.
Yes.
Like the high heel story in Cannes, that was kind of impressive. They wouldn't let women walk down the red carpet when they turned up in no high heels. So there was a belief that any film diva must wear high heels or she can't be seen, and that was enacted in public. So there's a lot of beliefs about what it takes to be successful as a writer, as an artist. And of course, we all have heard the starving artist meme, which is very damaging
and incredibly widespread.
Yes.
Keep running into people who are like, oh, I would be fine with whatever. Okay.
Yeah.
This is a business as well as art.
It is
the first thing you have to do, I think, is just work. What are your beliefs? Figure out what your beliefs are.
Yeah.
And of course, we're just talking about writing here. So what are your beliefs about writing? Is it supposed to be easy? Is it supposed to be hard? Another one that I hate, and maybe after I do another million words, I will feel differently about this, is the saying, writing is easy. All you have to do is open a vein and bleed all over the page. And for years, I said, well, I must not be a writer. I have a lot of fun doing this. It's not agony every single time I sit down. And I think I can I more than once have worked myself into making it feel painful in order to feel like it was really writing. And it's like,
Absolutely. I mean, this is an example from a different belief system. But a couple of years ago, I worked with a friend as EFT coach. I worked with a friend who was having morning sickness during her pregnancy, and she had been experiencing it for weeks, and it had been really severe. And I basically tapped with her on the belief that this must be part of a good, correct pregnancy. And I said, I basically told her, you've done enough of it. You have permission to stop having morning sickness because you've fulfilled the expectations for a pregnant woman. And she totally laughed at that. But after our tapping, it was practically gone. And so this is another area in life where a belief, like, it's very simple. If you're pregnant, you have to have morning sickness. And it's prevalent. I mean,
if you're a writer, every step of the way has to be painful and horrible. I was like, no.
Exactly. Or you have to do at least, you have to rewrite your first draft at least 3 times in order to make it good. That's ridiculous, but it's still out there and it's still being taught.
Now, this is not to say that there aren't times when you have to do 3 drafts to get it right.
Especially if you're a beginner. I mean, that's normal. I'm looking at an early work of mine, and I know I have to completely rewrite it, and I'm barking at it, but yes, that one needs a rewrite.
Yeah. But you really have to question a lot of the beliefs.
Yes.
So your beliefs about can you call yourself a writer?
Yes.
What does it take to get to the point? Most writers I know don't actually call themselves writers to people out in the world. So it's not because they're like, I know what I am, and I know that it creates an expectation in the people I talk to. So they come up with other definitions of who they are.
Yes. I mean, there's lots of beliefs around genre. Like, you would probably think that it's 100% women who write romance, and it's just not true.
It's not true.
There are men who write romance and who publish under female pen names because of that belief, because of that expectation. And imagine their inner conflict about writing a genre that, you'd probably not see many men coming out saying, yeah, I'm a romance writer.
Yeah.
It's just because it's going so contrary to what people expect.
And you have to deal with that expectation on the part of readers.
Yes.
I know a lot of writers who write romance have a very flowery, sort of old-fashioned pen name for their historical romances and a very sharp modern name for their contemporary romances. Just setting expectations in the mind of the audience.
And I really believe that this whole image that basically surrounds the word writer, like you sit in your old cottage or only child's writing shack.
Right, you can only write if you're alone in a garret in Paris. Or you have
in a loft in London, or
yeah.
And it's and you need to have a secluded space, and you need to have your, I don't know, peace and quiet, and that is just not true. I mean, I know mothers who write when their children are screaming around all over them, and I know people who write when their car is being serviced.
There's a great anecdote. Oh, I wish I'd thought of this beforehand. I would have looked up the book, but I think it was Calvin Trillin, but I'm not sure of that, who was reading, who wanted to give up smoking, and but every time he stopped smoking, he stopped writing, and he went to talk to a psychiatrist about it, and they said, well, maybe you need to smoke in order to write. And at that moment, he said, okay, then I'm no longer a writer. And it was at that point that he could start writing again, when he accepted that he had to get that as a writer, he did not smoke, which I thought was great.
It's like we have all these little things. It's Gary Craig, who created EFT. He says it's the writing on the wall. It's like, these are the laws. We write that on our inner wall,
Yes.
and we follow those rules.
Yeah. Or another one is genre versus literary. If
Oh,
it's genre, it's lesser, whereas literary is the only kind of writing we should be doing.
yes. Well, I think that's not. Well, it could be a belief we have internalized because it's all over the place.
It's all over the place. Yeah,
And of course,
you have to evaluate these beliefs for, is this something you came up with, or did you take it in from the outside world?
Absolutely. And I just must say this because it's so central to my heart. I have not found a faster method for changing such kind of beliefs than EFT tapping. It's huge, and part of my work as an EFT coach is really to explore this set of beliefs that you have around a certain task or part of your life, or even an experience. You have a set of beliefs around that, and some of those are helpful and some of those are not. And it's amazingly easy, once you know what you're doing, it's amazingly easy to shift a belief through tapping, because it's really as simple as, I realize this is not serving me, and then speak to your subconscious while you're tapping, because that's how you rewrite that program, basically, in your brain, in your subconscious. And you can go from a belief that a writer has to be poor and live in hardship in order to come up with good stories, that a writer has to have had a dreadful childhood in order to be able to come up with profound things to say about life. And these are all beliefs we have taken in, or not. I hope you haven't. But these are easy to shift and change into supportive beliefs with EFT. And it's at the core of what I do as a coach, to look into these and to help people find a mindset that really supports them.
Well, I think the first thing that you have to do, though, is to figure out which beliefs you need to work on. And I would say it was those that cause you pain.
Yes.
And that sounds really silly, but so many of us go through our lives deciding that yelling at ourselves is going to work much better than encouraging ourselves. And of course, the great example of this that people say is, would you talk to a small child that way? And yes, some people would talk to small children that way. It's true. But in general, most of us would say, no, you want to encourage the child. You want to encourage your friend. You want to, but when you talk to yourself, it's, why did you do that? That was dumb. You should try something else. You're a total failure. And it's like, that's not helping. You need to figure out what the pain point is and shift that mindset, because you need to be on your own side.
And it works to listen to your inner voice for a while.
Yeah.
Regardless of which area of the writing mindset you're in.
And one of the reasons that it's so important to get yourself straight on this first is because you're going to want to hang out with other writers. And I have throughout my career, certainly my career online, finding other groups of writers, hanging out with them. And a couple of the same things always happen. If everyone starts out at the same level, a couple of people are going to break out and become big successes, guaranteed. And if you think that that's a reflection on you, you're going to react badly. Boy, have I seen that over and over.
Yes, yes.
The other thing that's going to happen, and particularly with the ups and downs of self-publishing, there's a closed group I'm on Facebook that I see this repeatedly. It's like, what does such and so mean? You know, and everyone starts running around with their hair on fire because Amazon changed an algorithm, because a certain genre that had been going like gangbusters disappeared overnight. And people are like, what do I do? And it's like, if you aren't settled within yourself and able to take control of what you're doing, you're setting yourself up for a lifetime of pain, really.
Yes.
Uh,
Yes.
and we would like to avoid that happening to you. The first thing to look at, definitely when you're in groups of writers, is what are their core set of beliefs and how is that affecting you? There is a couple of writers' boards that if you buy me a cup of coffee, I will be happy to tell you in person, where the tenor of the board shifts such that it's like all the crabs in the pot trying to drag you down. And when it's been a happy, fun place where you've been hanging out and then it starts happening, you're kind of like, oh, what's wrong with me? I should be down there with the crabs. It's like, maybe it's time to find a new place to hang out.
Because that will happen too. That's the interesting thing. We all grow as writers. We all experience shifts. And I must say one of the big shifts was when I started self-publishing. And I suddenly found that the German writing group I was in, they still aren't that happy about self-publishing, and they don't quite understand why I self-publish in English. And basically, they stopped talking to me, and I stopped talking to them because the resonance disappeared.
Yeah.
And that just happens. It's nothing about me personally. It's nothing about them personally. It's simply that we move apart and the resonance shifts, and that is okay. It just means you may have to look for other people.
It hurts, definitely. I felt like this place that I'd been hanging out that felt really great had turned into a complaint fest. And
Yes.
one of the things that I like about, for instance, getting together with Hannah every week is you start out with what's new and good and what things have you learned this week? Because man, if you can't concentrate on how things are getting better, it can be hard. It can really be hard otherwise.
That's this whole law of attraction thing that you get what you send out, and if you send out a feeling of it's not good enough, I need more.
I gotta say, there are so many things, so many, particularly, I mean, I've lived in Northern California most of my life, and there are all these like new agey things, sayings that are in the air, like the threefold, uh, what you get out, you get back,
Yeah.
three times. I'm like, oh, please.
Yes.
One of the things you learn about as you grow older is, oh my God, it's absolutely true.
So you better send out good vibes.
You better send out a better optimistic way of looking at things, because boy howdy, the alternative sucks. The other thing that I've learned, particularly in Silicon Valley, is these people that you mentioned of, oh, I posted something on Amazon and it immediately got downloaded 100,000 times and now I'm a multimillionaire. That does happen, probably not with those numbers. That does happen. It doesn't happen a lot. And it doesn't happen to that person more than once. The saying around here is once you're lucky, twice you're good. And I don't know about you, but I'd rather come at this from a position of being good than wondering, what's going on? How can I replicate that?
Yes.
I want to know what I'm doing. I want to have a plan, and I want to be comfortable with who I am for that plan.
It's this other thing, and I can't tell you who said that first. It's a quote that's floating around. It's like my overnight success took 17 years.
Yeah.
And I honestly would like to build a success on some solid foundation and not just a bunch of good luck, honestly.
Right.
Because a
I
solid
wrote a
foundation,
book that was like another book that I liked, and look, it took off.
yeah, and they may. And you may be lucky, and someone picks it up, and it's featured in a big review blog or whatever. And that's the element of luck. But you can push it along by submitting to that kind of blog.
Yeah.
So it's like, again, with that law of attraction, you can sort of set your intentions and send out
Well, I think
your
that's, wait, you
thing.
just said the important word for setting your mindset. What's your intention? And
Yes.
I don't mean intention for making millions of dollars. That's great if that's what you want. Just a side note here. Again, I'm in Silicon Valley. I know people who have made hundreds of millions, if not billions of dollars, and that is with a B. That, that moment that you think that that would make you happy, I'm here to tell you that is not what makes them happy. Most of them do not
Yes.
care. And in a few cases, it has worked against them.
Yes.
Uh, that point, I think Christine says this, that point of arriving that you're hoping to get to, it's a mirage. There is no getting there. So you better figure out who you are right now. That was actually one of the biggest things I learned watching, watching guys that I'd hung out with become 100 millionaire, billionaire types, which is why I have a whole problem with the whole billionaire romance genre. I'm like, no, that is no. Uh, that's not what they're in it for.
Yeah.
And the ones who and the guys who are all about the money, wow, are they the most unpleasant people on earth? They really are. Because that's it.
Yes.
That's all they got. That's all they have. And if they don't have the money, they're desperate. So, intention.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. That is the most important thing about setting your mindset. What is your intention? What kind of person do you want to be? How do you want to feel?
Yes.
Setting your intention first
And
thing of the day.
and it's, if you think it's money that's going to make you happy, take a second look. Take a look at what you want to do with that money. Take a look at how you imagine your life to be like. And you'll find out that money is a tool. And that maybe you don't want to have a bank account of 100 million, but you would rather have a place where you like being, possibly a person who you like to share that place with. You may want to see happiness in other people's faces.
That's
And
the one piece of advice that I've gotten that has really stuck with me and has been really important, which is, what is the ultimate goal of all these things we're doing that we want? It's to be happy. So
yes,
why don't you try starting there and see what happens? Be happy with
exactly.
yourself,
And
be happy with where you are, and things can open up from there. And then you're happy with, wow, I made $1,000 this month. Really, the first time I made $1,000 on Amazon, which I'm going to be honest, will not pay our mortgage. Are you kidding? I thought I had, won the lottery. I was like, woohoo, I made $1,000. And I was really happy about it. And then
I
the next month,
celebrate
when I
every
went back to
review.
$200, I was like, woohoo, I'm happy about that.
And I think that is why we keep saying celebrate small successes, celebrate every success. I celebrate every sale. I celebrate the money that comes in. I celebrate
I
when a new book
celebrate
comes
other
out.
people's successes.
I celebrate when I finish a chapter.
Yesterday, I finished the novella. I took a walk and celebrated during my
Yes.
walk out.
And it's really, I think that's another one of those fundamentals. Um, find something to be happy about every day. Make an effort if it doesn't come easily to you. find something to be happy about every day. I use little things, like I use this guy.
That is so cute.
She makes me happy. I call her Ember,
Oh,
and she has little magnets in her paws, and I can clip her to places, and I can make her fly. That thing is silly, but if I'm in need of a laugh, or if I need some happiness in my life, I go for my dragon plushie.
I can't find my little kissing lions.
Oh,
I picked them. Their little finger. Oh, there they are. My little finger puppets. I bought them once at Starbucks.
oh, they're cute. Ooh, they are cute. So, yes, get yourself some props. Get yourself some things that make you happy. Get a flower. What I started doing is when I walk, and I walk to work on my day job. So it's the same old stretch of road that I walk, and going home I make a little detour through a park. And I've started taking a tiny little silly cheap camera with me, and I take pictures. I take pictures of flowers that I see. I take pictures of clouds when they're fascinating. I love the sky. Right now the chestnut trees are flowering, and I've been taking pictures of them because
Yeah.
it's just so beautiful. And
This
this,
is the only moment that there is. If you're living in the future when you're making $1 million a month, if you don't get there, you're going to be miserable and you will have missed right now.
yeah,
You'd better enjoy that writing that you're doing. It doesn't suddenly, if you start living to where you're going to the Hollywood premiere of the movie made from your novel, there are so many steps in between here and there. You're going to be
yeah.
miserable if you can't enjoy what you're doing in the here and now.
Yeah.
And not to
And
get all
there's,
Oprah on you, because that whole Oprah thing, I'm just not that person. Really, I'm not. But a gratitude journal makes a
yes.
huge difference. Writing down 3 things every day that you're appreciative of. And I know you're not supposed to write the same thing every day, but I have had stretches where chocolate made number 1 on the list every day, because I'm like, at least there's still chocolate in the world, you know.
Yeah.
Um,
I write a little, I have a little journal with 6 steps I write in every morning, and it's about, it's aligning with abundance, it's appreciation, it's the feeling for the day, it's the action steps that I'm taking, it's delegating to the universe, and it's the wild hair intention. And I in the notes I'll figure out who sent me that thing.
okay.
The
I've
wild
never
hair
heard of this.
intention is it's sort of like this wild dream that you have. Like I write down that Durrell's journey goes viral and everybody wants to read it, and it's just magical. So I write that down every day, and I sign it, and I do it in the morning, and it takes about 10 minutes. And it's especially the appreciation is just basically the same every day, but it really helps. I'm learning to be so grateful for this apartment that I have, which you see part of. I'm grateful for the day job, even if it's boring and unfulfilling. But I'm grateful because it pays my bills. It pays for this apartment. It pays for my food. I'm so grateful for my books, and so grateful for my EFT practice. Any clients I have, it's like I look at my life, and I really write down what is good and what am I grateful for. I'm grateful for my neighbors. I don't love all of them, but I'm still grateful for them. Um, and it's awesome to just write this down every morning, and just to bring it back into the mind, and just say there's so much in this life I'm grateful for, even if it's not my dream life just yet. I mean, who doesn't have dreams? I dream of living in a different place. I dream of making a living by my books, or possibly as a coach, and I'm not there yet, but just being there every morning, writing down all the good stuff that I already have, makes such a difference.
And one way that some people find makes it easier to figure out their intention or to figure out what they're going to do is to think about that place where they want to be, that future living 5 years from now.
Mm-hmm.
5 years from now, you want to be a New York Times bestselling author with 50 books, and at the moment you have no books. What should you be doing today? You might want to get cracking on those books. And that will help set your intention for when you sit down in the morning.
And if you want some help with that, Wishcraft by Barbara Sher is an awesome book to help you with that, because she tells you to look at the life you want to lead and then to just sort of lay out the steps backwards. So what is the final step you need to do to reach the life that you're leading? What is the second to the final steps? And then you just sort of take it backward until you arrive at the life where you are now. And then you have this whole list of steps, which is a whole process she lines out and she lays out in the book and explains how to do it. And she has real life examples from her coaching. And so it ends up with the message, what can I do today to get closer to my dream life? And that's basically all you have to do. You just have to take that little one step.
Action, yeah. You don't have to do it all today.
Exactly. Just one step that takes you closer, or maybe 2 or 3 if you have the time and the inclination.
Yeah. Find people who support you and who you can support honestly.
Yes.
If you have to fake it, I guess, for a while, do that. Because I'm going to tell you, you're thinking that life is going to be great once you have that success. You will have more envy and what's that? The whole prophet in their own town. People are like, oh yeah, I remember when she couldn't get a novel finished to save her life, and now she's telling people how to do it.
That's resentment. It's
Thank you, resentment. By the way, I'm the native English speaker, folks. You need to be with people that you can honestly talk to and honestly celebrate with and trust. And if you're hanging out with people who are all about, well, I did this and I did that, and what have you done? Maybe you don't need that in your life. Or people who are like, well, no human can write 1 book a year, which I have seen on writers' boards. Wow, someone who is a very successful writer, someone who's a very successful self-publisher was talking about their method. And one of their methods is to write very fast, has been a professional author before being a novelist and is now a professional novelist. And she writes very fast. And somebody immediately pipes up with, are your books any good? Are you going to keep hanging out with people who are like, well, if you write fast, it must be crap? No, you're not going to hang out with those people. You're going to go be like, I need happier people to hang out with.
Yes.
Pick the
and
people
there's
you
a
hang out with
saying.
carefully.
There's a saying, you're the average of the 5 people you hang out with most, which is not one I can live with easily, because I have friends who do not write. But they're supportive. They love what I'm doing, and they have been my emotional.
I don't think it needs to be 5 writers you hang out with.
Yeah.
But if everyone that you hang out with is like, what a crap dream that is, Hannah. Why don't you give it up and go work at the Quickie Mart? Don't hang out with those people.
Don't do that to yourself. And I mean, we have gone far away from writing, and yet I think we're still at the fundamental building steps of being a writer or being a successful person at all, because it involves self-care.
Yes.
And not just on the physical level, it involves a lot of self-care on the emotional and mental level. And that does mean find people who support you, find a way to support your own dreams, support your own happiness, and really give yourself that care.
And if at any time your self-talk involves, well, of course that person is doing really well, they write formulaic genre crap. Stop. and turn that thought around. What are you actually saying to yourself there? Anytime you come up with a thought that involves negative thoughts towards yourself or towards someone else, stop, really examine that belief. And if you can, get rid of it. Because you're going to be hanging out with, if you want to be hanging out with successful writers, you're going to be hanging out with genre writers who are doing better than you are, because there is always someone doing better than you are.
It's this whole judgment thing as well. I've been working on letting go of judgments ever since I started my training as a coach. That was one of the things that was really hammered home in our class. You can't work with clients if you keep judging people, because you have to pick up clients where they are and start supporting them. You can't go around judging them. You can't go around as a writing coach, you can't say, well, this person she knows her ABC and that's about it. She can't really put a sentence together. How would you ever coach her? How will you support her if you have that kind of judgment in your mind? So really letting go of judgment is absolutely an exercise that will help everyone, honestly. If you take nothing else from this show today, but letting go of judgment, letting go of judging yourself and judging others.
That's a whole topic we should do at some point. Letting go of things, letting go of expectations, letting go of
yeah. I have lessons about that.
that whole topic. Yes, that is a whole topic that we should do at some point.
That's a huge topic indeed.
Yes. But yeah, no, you evaluate your beliefs. They're not true. They're just beliefs.
Yes.
And there's a for someone who isn't that happy about woo mind stuff, I sure do seem to know a lot about them. There's I don't know what you call these people. I don't know if you've heard of her, Byron Katie.
Oh yes, I know Byron.
The judge your neighbor worksheet and turning your thoughts around.
Yes, the work. Is
the thought true? How do you know it's true? Who would you be if it weren't true? Look up Byron Katie. It's incredibly valuable way to look at your thoughts. They might be true, they might not, and you have to find out if that thought is serving you. So
yes,
for writing and for your entire life. Byron Katie. Okay.
Well, we've basically reached the end.
We have? Oh, wow. So we have another fabulous hour with Diane and Hannah. Well, this is great. Boy, we're covering I think that we could tackle this topic from a number of different positions: the business mindset, the reader mindset, the empire mindset.
The editing mindset, which is one that most writers would like to forget about.
Yes. I'll just self-edit. Don't do that. Well, this was great. Yeah. Thank you. Yes, send me information about that journal you use, and I will put that in the show notes too.
Yes, I will.
So thank you very much for joining us. And once again, we didn't work out what we're going to be talking about next week, but I'll post it when we figure it out. My name is Diane Patterson.
And I'm Hannah Steenbach.
And thank you for joining us for another edition of the 21st Century Writer Podcast.